This year has started quite cold and wet, and on my bike ride home the other day, all I could think of was a filling and spicy meal to warm up my frozen hands. So I dreamt myself away to West Africa, where you find a variety of peanut stews known as either maffe, domoda or sauce d'arachide. It's just a spicy tomato sauce emulsified with peanut butter, but it's easy, it's proper comfort food, and here's how I make it. I always start my peanut stew with an aubergine, mainly because it's something that Idris Elba once recommended, and who doesn't trust that sexy bastard? Chop it up into some cubes and throw it into a pot with some salt to reduce its water content. While that's happening, I'm gonna chop some onions, a red bell pepper, and then some celeriac. This is not very traditional, but I like to use as many local products as possible, and celeriac is one of those things we have a lot of in Denmark in this wintertime. If you don't like it, you could use a stalk of green celery or some carrots instead. It doesn't matter too much. To make it nice and spicy, we're also going to add some chili, garlic, and ginger. Ideally, you want to use a Scotch bonnet chili for its fruitiness, but if you can't find it, then a habanero is the closest substitute. I'm chopping it relatively finely, and I'm also saving about half of my Scotch bonnet for a fresh chili sauce that I'm going to make along with the stew. While I've been chopping, the aubergines have wilted down, and I am now ready to add some oil. I'm also going to add our chili, garlic, and ginger and fry that for about a minute. When that is smelling super fragrant, I'll add the other chopped veggies and let them soften up for about 5 to 7 minutes. When the onions start to become relatively translucent, I add some ground spices. You can play around with the spices. Sometimes I add a lot of things. Today I kept it quite simple with just some cayenne pepper, smoked paprika, and coriander seed. Let them fry for about 30 seconds to wake up the spices, and then add a can of chopped tomatoes, half a liter of water, and then our main character, peanut butter. I love peanut butter, so I add around 150 grams, but you can do more or less depending on your peanut preferences. Peanut butter has a lot of protein, but for some extra protein I like to add chickpeas. Ideally you'd cook them yourself, but I must admit that the convenience of a can compels me to use those for the most part. If you have a few dying tomatoes, this is also a great place to throw them in, but you can easily leave them out. And then I'll put on a lid and simmer it for at least 30 minutes until I'm ready to eat. While my stew is stewing, I'll make some condiments. First, a super fresh chili sauce using the rest of our Scotch bonnet and a regular red chili pepper. Bash those in a pestle and mortar or in a blender with a bit of olive oil and salt, and then season with some lime juice and sugar until you have a bright floury sauce with a strong kick to it. I also like a pickled element for my stew, so I can quickly show you a little hack to some lazily pickled onions. Instead of boiling the onions in vinegar, I just cover them with boiling water for 2 minutes. I then drain them, give them a bit of salt, sugar, pepper, and vinegar, and let them steep for 5 minutes. This way of pickling onions gives you a really super crunchy fresh onion, and it uses way less vinegar, and you have one less pot to clean. Easy. 20 minutes before you want to eat, you can cook some rice. I also really like some sort of leafy green in my stew, and my favorite is for sure black cabbage. This could also be collard greens or kale, but if you can find black cabbage, I really recommend it for the texture and the slightly bitter flavor. Chop up the leaves relatively finely, and at the bottom there can be some stems that are a bit too woody for my taste, so there I just rip off the leaves from the stem. Throw them in the stew, and for the last 15 minutes until your rice is done, they will cook nicely. Once your cabbage is tender, you will season your stew with a bit of salt and pepper and lime juice just to brighten up the flavors, and then you can serve it up. I really love to eat like this, something warm, spicy and fatty from the peanut butter, and then just full of healthy proteins and fibers. It's super satisfying in itself, and with the fresh hot sauce and the pickled onions, you're actually looking at something fairly gourmet. I hope this can inspire you to cook some healthy food, and as always, thanks for watching.